Zoom call coming up. So appreciate having you on.
Appreciate everybody. Everybody stay safe, okay?
Okay, and it looks like Coach called in on his own. I thought I was gonna have to go in there and get him set up. Can you hear me, Coach? Are you good?
Come on, DB, give me a little bit of credit here. This is only my 247th Zoom.
I know, but we moved you away from the window. Wow.
I mean, you know, it's you know, I was born on a weekend, but not last weekend, so we're all good. We're up and running.
I hope you've got your iced tea because this is going to be a long one here. But why don't we do this? Start off.
Arnold Palmer, baby, Arnold Palmer.
Tell us.
Filled to the brim.
Tell us what it's like to be on 20 hours a week instead of 12, and then we'll get started with the whole litany of questions, starting with Scott Ritchie at the lead off.
Hold on 2 seconds here so I can figure out how to get my volume up. Well, one of the things I think the NCAA did an unbelievable job of ramping this up. We went from 8 hours a week to 12 hours a week, and that was refreshing and it was helpful. And you know, I think at a time of COVID when we were all or somebody at different times has dealt with having guys out, it gave us an opportunity. Not having a summer, so to speak, in and out, and really no spring, it gave us an opportunity to kind of ramp things up and work our guys out a little more than we had in past years. But obviously, there's nothing like the start of practice. You know, it still makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It's exciting. You'd like to bundle all of that enthusiasm up and be able to spread it out through the course of a season. So our guys were excited, and we're bouncing off the walls, ready to get after it. And so now we get to start stringing together multiple days. Everything we've done to this point has pretty much been 1 or 2 days on, and then maybe had to take a day off because of the 12-hour weeks. And now we can string some things together and start stacking stuff together. So it's been it's great to start. It's great to get going, and it feels good just to be back doing what we all love to do.
I guess I'm going to start per DB. Sorry, Jeremy. I guess with the first day of practice, I mean, was there one thing in particular that you wanted to attack right away, or was this just maybe a continuation of the work you've done since, you know, you got back in the gym, even in those small workouts?
Yeah, Scott, and we did not do anything new today that we had not done leading into this. Everything's been kind of a build-up. Today was just an extension of what we're doing. A lot of fundamentals, recapping everything really that we've done, and then from there we'll start building. So very little new today, but then we just continue to build from here, and we covered everything that we've covered in our individual workouts.
I think there were like maybe 6 pictures from practice I saw on Twitter, and so where Austin was in sweats and didn't look like Ben was in a practice jersey. Did those 2 guys, were they held out today?
No, they're out. You know, we're still dealing with some issues with Austin's back, so he has not practiced or done anything with us this spring. He has another examination coming up to see what's going on there. And then Ben had a little flare up with his foot, was in a boot and is out now. And so he's just going back through the process of re-engaging back into practice.
All right. Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, hope you're well. You look good. Just wondering what it's been like for you and Joey putting together a schedule right now in the non-conference schedule.
Well, there's been nothing like it. It's truly COVID 2020, unprecedented, as so many things are. You know, we don't have We don't have a lot of answers. We have a ton of questions that all have to be answered and have to be answered in a way. Men's basketball and women's basketball, we're kind of the first to break the seal, I guess, on non-league games. That's posed some problems and some challenges. And again, until some of those questions get answered and are answered in a way that's in the best interest and safety of our student athletes, it does pose a lot of problems and some challenges. So, you've got a lot of issues going on there, and we don't have a schedule yet. That's no secret. We have had some games that have, we've reshuffled, but as we continue to move forward and hopefully hear sooner than later from the Big Ten in terms of, what our conference season is going to look like, when it's going to start, and where we go from there. You throw a lot of factors in this, Jeremy, with finals now. Everybody's got a different finals schedule. Schools have not been able to play during finals week. Obviously that's an issue that football is also dealing with now. We've had mandatory day offs, the 22nd through the 25th, where we've sent our kids home. And now, how do you do that and not have to quarantine them all coming back for a period of time? So there's a lot of issues that don't have anything to do with games, but have everything to do with scheduling the games. So, it's maddening. It's been a challenge and still is.
We've seen some reports of what could be on the horizon. I know you can't confirm those quite yet, but what are you hoping to get out of your non-conference schedule? And have you had any discussions with Missouri as well?
We want to be safe. That is the most important thing. It's not every conference is testing the same way we are. Obviously, the Big Ten has a myocarditis issue on the back end, which is 21 days out if there's a positive test. You think of the impacts that could have on a basketball season and the number of games missed. Our biggest concern is trying to avoid so we can play Big Ten games and play as many Big Ten games as we can. We know it's not going to come off unscathed, more than likely. Teams are going to have issues. We could have issues. But you've got to be very safe in knowing that other teams and other conferences aren't testing the way we're testing. We've got an issue with officials. Officials, flying around the country commercial. They're independent contractors. All those things happen in non-league games, and how do you control all those things and control hotels, control air travel, control buses. So that's the number one objective of us trying to schedule non-league games is the safety, so we can get to Big Ten play and hopefully be as safe and as healthy as we can be.
And sorry, just follow up. Have you guys talked with Missouri? Is that a chance this year that happens?
Yeah, there's all sorts of talks, Jeremy, with everybody going on, and Missouri's part of those conversations. And right now the Big Ten has no crowds, no attendance, and so no fans anyway. Excuse me. So I think there's a lot of conversations going on with everybody, and no stones being left out. And we've been able to rework some things with Arizona for the following year. Obviously, the MTEs are one of the most important things because they allow us to get to 27 games. And that's one of the things we want to do is get to as many games as we can possibly play, with the idea that there could potentially be games that don't happen.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, thanks for doing this. I want to talk about the guards specifically. I know when Io announced he was coming back, you've got, a couple of really talented freshmen, and Adam Miller and Andre Curbelo in the mix, as well as Trent Frazier and some other guys like, Jacob Grandison that can play either position, as well as DeMonte Williams. how do you work with so many guards? And I mean, it's a great problem to have, but just how do you plan to get all those guys and let them see the floor?
You have no idea how great a problem that is to have really good guards. And, you're looking at unbelievable battles every single day. That has been the joy of preseason to this point and early practices, watching all those guys go at it. And it's so competitive. And, Trent and Io now have an unbelievable knack of leadership and the responsibility of leadership and helping those young guys get better. All the while they're trying to embarrass them, really. They're competing at a level that's so hard in practice every day. It's making Adam and Andre Curbelo, it's making them better. And, but they're helping him with terminology. They're helping him with concepts. All of that will work itself out the playing time. Jacob's been bouncing around between spots at the 3 and the 4 as DeMonte's been all over the place. He's a veteran. He literally knows every position on the court for us. So those battles are fun, and it's nice to have options, and they all do something different. And to be very honest, they've all been really, really good to this point.
Thanks, Brad.
Coach, I want to ask about shooting. It's been a theme of the offseason. You talked about it. Other people, you read an article about Illinois, and it's all the pieces are there. Will the shooting be there? So take me through the summer and these first practices and the emphasis that has been on that and where things are going. Yeah,
and I like to think, because I see it every day, that last year was just a kind of a one-off year. Maybe it was the line moving. I don't know. And yet we were so efficient on the offensive end in certain areas. But there's no doubt we've got to shoot the ball better. We're not going to see Trent Frazier have a year like he had. It was just kind of a deal where the momentum got going a little bit downhill, and it just continued. Io's shot 1 million balls since the end of the season, and going through the NBA search and all of that for him and the workouts, he's been working from that line as much, so he's extended his range. Adam Miller is an elite shooter. We'll be better there. Curbelo is a good shooter. And I think one of the reasons that we played well late in the year, DeMonte started making shots, and we're going to see that. Jacob Grandison's a really good shooter. So I don't think we'll have those issues. I think it'll be a strength of our team. But there's no doubt with the guards that we have, and you've got Kofi and Georgie in the paint, those guys are going to attract a lot of attention. So they're going to get shots, and we're going to have to make those shots. And I fully expect us to, because we're good shooters.
Are you going to give Kofi the green light from 3 this year?
No. He might get one a game up. He's been out there working on them, but I tell him, and he is a good shooter. He's got great touch. But I wouldn't say that I wouldn't let him fling one up there, but he's worked really hard at it. There's no doubt.
Good, thanks.
Hey, Coach, you're looking good. First question I have is along the lines of the freshman guards. Have you kind of seen Adam or Andre kind of be taken under the wing of Io or Trent or DeMonte in terms of just kind of mentoring them through these first couple of practices and first couple of months of being a college basketball player at Illinois?
Yeah, I think that's one of the values of having an older team. I think all of our guys have done it, but Adam's got such a great relationship with DeMonte from their days in Peoria. DeMonte's helped him a bunch, as has Io, being a high school teammate and having him experience some of the same things and the same growth. And it will make that transition much easier for both of those guys. But in Adam's case, to have guys who he has respected, played with before, and see them go through it, it'll make that transition easier for him. Trent spent a lot of time with Curbelo, as has my son Tyler, in helping him identify and understand exactly the nuances of what we're doing on both ends. So the leadership we've gotten on our team's been great.
In terms of some of these experienced guys that you have, how much do you think that's going to help you entering such a unique season where discipline off the court is going to be as important as it ever has been? And then just entering a Big Ten season that I know you've said this Big Ten is going to be better than it was last season.
Well, I think that there's no doubt. I would much rather be in this scenario having veterans than in year one or year two, with a new team or a team that was so young as we were in those first couple seasons. These guys know and understand. Our changes are very minimal in terms of scheme, our philosophy, our foundation, our culture. All of those things are in place. The one thing we tried to do in each of those years, we were still trying to establish what our culture and identity was. And that's a different battle than just putting in X's and O's and plays and so on and so forth. So that's established. Our veterans have been great, and leadership and guys with a little maturity are of tremendous value.
Last one I've got on the culture. You talk all the time about everyday guys and building to that culture. I think I've asked you this before, but are you finally where you want to be culture-wise now that you have all these experienced guys back?
Getting closer. And I think that we have one step. I think that in losing guys, and I'm Andres Feliz. Andres Feliz was the ultimate culture guy. And I think that his leadership was very powerful with our group. It was tight in the locker room. And anytime you bring in new guys, and this is the first year we've had some success and brought in new guys, now we need to see how we react to that. And, we can't listen to all the outside noise. We can't listen to all the hoopla around the rankings. That doesn't have anything to do with us getting better every day. And that's our culture, is getting better every day. So new circumstances and some new faces, but I do think our culture's in a place where, and first day of practice, Adam Miller's diving on the floor for loose balls because he saw Io DeSumo do it. And Trent's out there taking charges, and now we got everybody taking charges. And those are the little intangible things on the court that we've never done before.
Thanks, Coach. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Brad. You talked about Tyler in that last answer. What's it been like having him back on your team?
Great. It's been, I think one of the things that goes underappreciated with Tyler is the fact that nobody knows our system and our stuff better than him. He's ingrained in it. He is a basketball junkie, and studying it, and he's well versed. Well, he's also got a relationship with our players that is different than a coach, and having that in the locker room and having that in practice every day, and being able to explain to those type of things to guys, little nuances that player that you go through as a player, all that is really valuable, and he brings a lot of that little savvy, that court savvy and feel, and he's got a great feel for that. So it's been nice to have him.
What were those kind of conversations like when he told you that he may return, and then what was your reaction when he decided to come back?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors. First of all, the dad side, he's in the Geese School of Business. Tyler has one master's degree. He got asked to be a part of a tremendous academic plan, an academic program, in the Geese School of Business. That excites any parent. And then to know that he had a 6th year of eligibility, he wanted to capitalize on that. He didn't get to be in the NCAA tournament last year, and wants to be a part of that and wants to have that moment. And I thought, what better way? Everything was all askew with you know, the professional world and the coaching ranks and everything else. So what better opportunity for him to come back and get a wonderful degree and add another one and then continue to play and grow and so I'm ecstatic for him. I'm really excited.
And then last one, there's a possibility, guys could miss time because of COVID or things like that. So are you going to have more guys, you think, taking first team reps in practice maybe, and, to get them better suited to play with the first team?
I think one of the advantages of our team is our depth. It gets hard. We got 10 guys, 11 guys, 12 guys, however you want to look at it, that have all participated, played games, and have the versatility. And I think that's one of the great things that I'm excited about is we have great versatility. We played big last year, at different times. We played small. We bounced Georgie around to different places and spots. DeMonte can play anywhere. So it's one of the things that we do on the offensive end is we teach concepts more than we just teach actual set plays. So all of those guys are learning the concepts of what we do. Defensively, we're going to have the same defensive plan that we've had last year with a few minor tweaks here and there. But versatility is going to be one of our strengths. So we fully expect to have guys out. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope we're blessed and we stay away from that. But in the meantime, if it does happen, I think we're in a nice spot.
Jim, you look like you unmuted, but I can't hear you. Try and unmute again. No. Yeah. Not just me, Coach. You can't hear me either, can you?
No, I cannot.
Sorry,
Okay.
Jim. We're unable to hear your audio, so we'll go. Piper, you're up.
Hey, Coach, good to see you. I know you talked over the summer that your biggest concern was getting these freshmen up to speed. I know you hit on that some with just the leadership and being able to guide them along, but kind of where are they at in terms of knowing plays, chemistry with teammates in comparison to where you would normally want them to be this time of year?
Well, I think we've got continued growth in the chemistry area. I think one of the challenges, Derek, that we've had to this point is with COVID, just continual team bonding, team building stuff. We're not allowed in our locker room. So many conversations happen in the locker room, through all of our individual workouts and small group stuff, which went on really up until a couple of weeks ago. One group had to leave before the other group could come in. And so the team bonding stuff, we haven't been able to have dinners at my house or go do team bonding stuff or movie nights or go bowling or whatever. That stuff is still a work in progress. As to on the court, they're probably further ahead than any group of freshmen ever have been. A lot of that due to the leadership, but also with the structure and the format of where we were at. They're great listeners. They're great learners. We've been able to teach a lot in these small groups. So it's just getting acclimated to the pace of the game, to the physicality of 5-on-5, to how the floor shrinks compared to a high school game. But where they're at in terms of learning and understanding is way ahead of any group we've had.
I know we spent a lot of time talking about Adam Miller, Andre Curbelo, but it seemed like you guys really liked what you saw from Coleman Hawkins this summer. Just kind of how do you see him going forward and what kind of role can he have as a freshman? Yeah,
he's been terrific. And Coleman gives us a luxury we haven't had. And, he's probably at some point of his career will probably be a small forward. He's a great stretch four. He's an elite shooter. I didn't mention him, earlier about his shooting, but what he is a great ball handler and an elite passer. And there's no coaching some of the things that he does. He does them instinctively. So having a guy 6'10" who can do those things is an advantage. I think that he's got a great motor. He works really hard. He's gaining strength, and I think he's going to be a guy that, because of his IQ and his feel and instincts, is going to find his way to the court maybe earlier than even I thought.
And one more quick one for you. With Georgie, where do you see him now being an upperclassman, just kind of with his development, with his mindset? What do you like what you're seeing from him going into this year?
I've loved what I've seen. One, he's in unbelievable condition. There's not a guy out there and I'd put him up against anybody in the country in terms of a guy who's worked as hard through COVID. He's physically in great shape. He's added weight. And he's been, he looks like the Georgie we saw as a freshman. That jump hook goes in every time he shoots it. He's confident. He's so versatile. We've seen a maturity happen with him in terms of, I think, through some of the struggles last year, there comes growth after that. So he's going to have a great year for us. I don't doubt that for a second.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, you're up, Kedrick.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? This is Kelly Prince from Quad City Times. Quick question for you. When you first took the job, one of the things you talked about was being able to put the program in a good situation where it's a top 10 program, a top 15 program in the country. Now that you have that program, is this what, how are you going to be able to sustain it, and how are you going to be able to keep the players level-headed so they don't read all the press clippings?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one of the things we've talked about a lot, and I think it's it's our next step of growth. And we've shown that we can compete in the Big Ten. We've done it. We've played the last week of the season last year for going into it playing for a conference title. We've won on the road. We've done those things. But now you've got to go from the hunted to the hunter and understand that the bullseye's on your back, and you've got to handle that. And how do you? The first part of that starts with distractions away from the court, and listening to all the stuff that you guys talk about. You can't do that, and that's for everybody else. And our objective is to really never watch the rankings, never talk about the rankings. That's for everybody else. And just keep doing what we do. Just get better every day. Be an everyday guy. And all the results will take care of themselves. And as you guys know, I'm a process guy. I'm very committed to that. And I want our players to be that. And there'll be different challenges. But consistency, Kedrick, is something that we're aiming for. We've got to try to pick up where we left off last year. That's where we want to start. That's a goal. And then we've got to do that every night. We cannot have the ups and downs that a young team had last year. And we got better at that late in the season. And that's the next growth pattern for us. And to stay a top 10 team every year, you've got to do those things. And that's what we're working towards every day.
Okay, just one more. You mentioned earlier about the three-point shooting being an issue where you kind of want to improve on that a little bit last year, and I agree with you with the three-point line. But is there another part of the team that you want to see improve from last year to this year?
Well, I want to see consistency for one, and I think we saw some early parts of the year last year we turned the ball over. Probably too much. Late in the year, we were good because we never turned it over. And then I think that, I want to play a little bit faster in terms of pace. That doesn't mean shoot it quicker. That means I want us getting up and down the court faster. I'd like to add, 5, 6, 7 possessions a game because of our depth, because what I think will be a real asset for us And I think that we are going to be a very good offensive team. I think we have a better understanding of what we're doing on that end. And with that, I hope comes efficiency. So we're trying to, one other area we've talked a lot about is getting to the foul line more. And, not just having, Kofi or guys that are in the interior be the ones getting fouled. We want to be able to get those guards to the foul line and Trent especially, very good free throw shooter. We want him to be there as much as we can. And there's an aggressiveness that happens with that. So a lot of answers to that question, but, one of the main ones is just being consistent day in and day out there.
Hey, Brad, good to see you. Happy first day of practice. The word I guess I've been trying to look for is confidence and the role it will play for your squad. You missed out on the postseason that was beyond your control, and yet there's outside hype that you don't want to pay attention to. What is the role of confidence for a team that with the mix of veterans and the new faces, and how is it generated for you?
Well, I think that one, that stems a little bit from your veterans, having been there. There's a confidence that comes from knowing what venues you play in, knowing what opponents do, knowing what we do. All of that exudes with experience comes confidence. And when you work as hard as guys, as our group does, you're confident because you've worked hard. That translates down, permeates through your program. And, you get guys that come in as an Adam Miller, who's an Andre Curbelo, who have had nothing but success. Coleman Hawkins played arguably on one of the best teams in high school basketball last year. Those guys are confident. And, so I think putting that together as a collective group, I don't think we lack confidence. And I like that. I want that. I preach that myself, and I feel that. But with that is an understanding that, hey, everybody's coming after you, and you have to back that up. And sometimes when you do get dinged, you better make sure that you know how to handle that and be able to bounce back. So we're talking a lot about those things and challenging our guys with that stuff in practice every day.
The question is about, as you add new things, whether they be wholesale changes or tweaks, where do you draw on that? Are you seeing any new trends? Are you try to pick up on things you may be seeing? Do you create things on your own, or is there nothing new under the sun as you try to scheme for basketball, so to speak?
No, there'll be a few new things. I think you can start with Io. I mean, I think you could see us put him in some different situations. Io's 206 pounds today. He was 170 when he got here as a freshman. You can see us, maybe posting him a little more, put him in scenarios that based on matchups where he gets isolated, and we look at him on a block or in an elbow in an isolation situation. So I think some of those things are stuff we're tinkering with. It's still really early. We're still looking at just teaching our concepts and trying to master those, but got a lot of different options we can do. As Coleman and Adam and those guys progress, and Curbelo, we'll get a pretty good understanding of what all that looks like.
And finally, one last question. Jermaine Hamlin, just seeing his picture in the team photo, hard to tell, but it looks like he may have filled out a little bit.
Yeah, Jermaine's been out. Jermaine had a little hand procedure done that he hurt in COVID, so he did not practice today. He'll be back here in a short time. But yeah, Jermaine's added weight. He's matured. Again, Jermaine is a guy that at the end of the season last year was playing great, and having battled Kofi every single day in practice improved him. And Jermaine's a high IQ guy who understands what we what we do. Right now, he's only going through stuff dry with us and dummy. He's not doing anything live. But the thing that excites me about him, he's a great lob catcher in pick and rolls, and he's an unbelievable shot blocker. And those are two areas that we can continue to improve in, and he'll help us in. So I'm excited about having Jermaine back in practice and get him going again.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, Brad. A lot of your players and coaching staff, along with yourself, have been pretty vocal about support for the Black Lives Matter movement these past few months. What has it meant to you and your team to just be able to have those conversations openly?
Yeah, I mean, that's what, and again, that's what we're here to do, is to help listen, understand, you know, and so much of our attention goes to basketball sometimes, and yet we have to sit back and listen and understand about what everybody's concerns are, and obviously Black Lives Matter has been something that's been at the forefront, and you know, we're very, very in tune with what our players are talking about, what their concerns are, and we take full advantage of every opportunity, not only within our athletic department, but our program as well, to help listen to those young people and figure out significant ways to help them and to further help us understand. I'm learning all the time from them, and I think that's one of the things that has been very exciting about this process, is just hearing what our athletes, not just men's basketball players, but what our athletes are talking about. So it's been I'll say a life-changing moment for me in terms of understanding some of the things that have gone on.
Yeah, and then I know obviously with football, Lovey has said, and it's been on Twitter, that the team is 100% registered to vote. Is that something your team has done as well, or something you guys are working on?
Yeah, we are. And November 3rd will be an off day for us, and we've gone through for each of them the ability to have to vote back in their home states, and we've gone through all of that process. Joey Biggs, our director of basketball operations, has done yeoman's work on trying to make all that possible and get all that information for those young men and get that handled. So November 3rd will be a day we'll all vote.
As obviously you've been able to vote before, a lot of these guys probably haven't. Have you, or what have your conversations with them been like on just expressing the importance of voting?
Yeah, as we get closer, I mean, it's obviously been at the attention of, we follow a lot of the NBA games, and that's been a big part of it, is them talking about voting and understanding just how powerful that is, and talking about the ability to, and as we get closer to November 3rd, we'll continue to talk about that. But, you know, not just understanding what you hear on social media, but what truly are some facts, and knowing people and personnel. And again, for them, it's researching their own states in a lot of cases. So it's some of them are very in depth with it, and others maybe not as much, but that's again, that's their choice. But it's one of the things we talk about. It's one of the great things about being a citizen of the United States of America is we all get the right to vote, and that's pretty powerful.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Yeah, hi. Hey, Brad, good to see you. I'm curious, has practice gone the way you thought it has? Have you guys had to stop at any point because of COVID, or have you guys been clean the whole way through?
No, we've been out. We've had guys out at various points. Again, and this has gone in stages. I think one of the things that the University of Illinois and our athletic department are obviously at the forefront. I think that's pretty well documented by now in terms of our testing on campus, not just for athletes, but for regular students. So that when we've had issues, we've chose not to stop our program, because the reality is we understand that cases are going to happen. We've dealt with the quarantine, and yet whether it was in June, July, we had a great month of July into August up until the start of school. Then we saw a little bit of a hiccup here or there where guys were out. Then the Big Ten announced the myocarditis testing. So we've had some athletes that have had to wait and go through all of that. And we're back now and all healthy. But I think the one thing that's happened is we've learned, and it's been extremely educational for all of our athletes to know what quarantine looks like and feels like. It's not fun, it's miserable. We've had some now understand what the myocarditis testing is and the process of what it would be like to be out 21 days. So when we talk about keeping your circles tight and not letting anybody else in and masking up and washing your hands all the time and understanding that, those are circumstances that sometimes are out of our control, but it's always at the forefront, Brett, of what we're doing and talking about, because we do test every day. And that's put us in a nice situation. But, to think we're not going to have cases would be pretty foolish on my part, I think. I think we all understand in college sports now that people are going to be out and we're going to miss time. But we've dealt with it, and we've dealt with it in an unbelievable way.
I don't know if you can say how many cases you've had or not, but has any of that surprised you? And you kind of mentioned it there.
No.
Going forward, how do you kind of work with that as well when a lot of those things are out of your control, especially with other teams, Brad?
Yeah, it's challenged me it's not necessarily always about winning this year. Okay, this year there's going to be, I've said it many times already, the winner of the Big Ten is probably going to be the team that handles COVID the best and gets a little bit lucky. And you could have with an athlete being out 21 days with myocarditis, you could miss 6-7 games. Well, if you're out 3 weeks doing nothing, think about how long it takes you to come back. And you could miss 6, 7, 8 games in that time frame, and that impacts the league standing. This is about the safety and welfare and everybody's probably going to have some circumstance or some situation. And I don't know if we play 14 league games or if we get them all in. There'll probably be some of that. So I think the exciting thing is for all of college sports is we're back. We're going to have an NCAA tournament. It's not always going to be fair. It's not always going to be make sense. But it is the important thing is we're back on the court and we're back playing, and that's great for our sport and it's great for athletics.
Just one quick follow-up to that real quick. Do you feel confident November 25th that the season will start on time?
Yes, without a doubt. The season will start on November 25th.
Thanks, Brad.
Brad, good to see you. You mentioned the scheduling process has been a little bit maddening for you and Joey, but at the same time of that, you've got a lot of student athletes who I'm guessing are wondering what this schedule is going to look like. I mean, how are they handling it? And I mean, are they coming to you asking for updates? I guess just what's that exchange like?
Yeah, we've been very, very, very upfront with our guys. It's not something that we've talked about a ton because there's nothing really to tell them. But we talk about it every week. And, we tell them that, it's when it went from November 21st to November 25th, it was originally November 10th. We told them about the start of the season. We've told them there will be an NCAA tournament, but beyond that, I don't have answers. So, we'll tell them it's going to be one of the great schedules. The Big Ten is going to be better than it's ever been. And top to bottom, this could look like one of the toughest schedules in the history of Illinois basketball. And so we've got to be prepared. And you know, at the end of the day, we'll see how it all plays out.
And then I guess, what are your thoughts on the NCAA considering an extra year of eligibility for winter athletes?
Yeah, you know, I to be honest, I haven't given it a ton of thought. I understand it. You know, I guess that you know, you feel excited because of what could be, but yet there's a recruiting component, there's a financial component. I think it just makes sense that the NCAA is going to do it. I don't know what all the ramifications will come with that. Excuse me, with the NCAA and with each member institution being able to make some of those decisions, but you know, it'll take some time to work some of that out, but it just makes sense that happens. And they've done it for the fall. They've done it for the kids last spring, and then we'll have to play our way through that and see how it all works itself out, Joey.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, you had mentioned that Benjamin had a flare-up with his foot. Just wanted to follow up on that. Is that a flare-up of that same injury that he dealt with last season?
It's in a little different area, but it's on the same foot.
And then kind of next question, a lot of people have been really excited about trying to figure out what your guys' starting five is going to be. I know you've always been a big proponent of, you know, it doesn't matter whether you start, it's all about minutes, but how much have you guys been thinking about that rotation and, you know, kind of possibilities of who could start, who could be that second group in, and is it just kind of exciting that you do have a lot of depth to provide to that?
So are you going to believe me when I tell you I haven't thought 1 second about that? And if you'll wait a week or two, I'm sure Lauren will put something out as well, his prediction. I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I don't mean to be. I really don't. Io's going to start. I mean, I got a really good feeling about Io, and beyond that, we'll just leave it at that. I don't know. I really don't. It's so early, and we're still working on so many things, and I like to see a substantial amount of practice. So I get the whole picture, not just the starting five, but what my bench looks like, what my rotations could be. So it's way too early for any of that, Nico.
And have you maybe, I guess, heading into today, though, I mean, you guys do have a lot of talent coming back, a lot of incoming talent in. Did you see maybe an increase in intensity for the first practice than what you've seen over the last few years on a team that, you know, kind of is coming in with these expectations?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, great question. And it was different because there was knowledge and understanding of what it's all about. It became competitive. So we structured practice a little bit about that, even though there was not a lot of new teaching today. It was stuff that we've already done in a lot of our workouts. But we actually went up and down and strung 3 or 4 possessions together because of that, because we knew it would be competitive, and it is a little bit different because of the understanding. You're not teaching X's and O's, and you're not trying to establish your culture. Those things are there. You're continuing to work on them and build on them. But you know, you got a lot of guys who know what's going on, and that allowed things to be a little bit different.
Thanks, Brad.
Brad, you know this more than anybody, that certain things in your business kind of happen out of pure necessity, you know, and things that work just because that you try it and it does. And what I'm getting at is these multi-team events that are kind of popping back up because of COVID. Do you think that could happen later on in the future? Does that make sense for an Illinois? Does it make sense for a Stephen F. Austin? Does it make sense for those other kind of programs to do that in the post-COVID world? You know, whatever that's going to look like, and Lord knows I don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I still think that there's tremendous value in these events, I think we've got great, I was excited as heck about the event we were in Florida. It was a great field. It's neutral site. It's TV. It's got a different atmosphere to it. So I do think there's some value in those. Obviously, we've done where we played a home MTE in the past here. So I think there's some value. I think your team, the point of where you're at with your team, youth, experience, so I think that'll be something that's obviously was very important for the oversight committee and the NCAA to keep MTEs. That's why they put the 27 and 25 part in the scheduling. So but I think we'll continue to see a variety of different types of MTEs, and where you feel comfortable with, you'll go.
And you've said repeatedly on national platforms and even today that we're going to have positive tests. It would be irresponsible to say we don't. But how much conversation in the Zoom calls with your colleagues, 13 other coaches in this league, are about, and I know you don't have a schedule yet, but being able to call Tom Izzo and say, hey, look, Tom, I've only got 7 scholarship players that are negative right now. Like, can we move this game or have some flexibility with whatever schedule gets provided to say, hey, this is a competitive disadvantage for either me or for you. Let's work around this.
Yeah, and again, I think that's why the Big Ten has made some of the decisions they've made with the everyday testing, and I think that there's all of that data and information is being sent to the league office, and we're going to know that information. And I think it's still to be determined what that looks like in terms of disqualification or canceling a game, how many are going to be out. But I do think that we all understand, and we're doing twice a week Zooms with our head coaches right now, and just trying to stay connected in terms of what the information is and what some of the questions are. So I fully expect there to be some type of built-in understanding that maybe the last week or last 10 days of the season, it's kind of set aside for opportunities for games to be made up, or so on and so forth. But to think that you're going to get through a season and maybe not have, you may not have one guy for the 21 days. That could be, so if you lose an IO or you lose somebody like that for an extended period of time, it will impact your season. And but that's going to be the reality of COVID 2020 season. Is all those issues could be out there.
If I could ask an on-the-floor question, you were asked about Georgie. I kind of wanted to bring that up again in the sense of, I know you and your staff do, season evaluations, and I was curious how that went with Georgie and what happened there and what he had to go through learning how to play with Kofi and all of those things. How does that work this year, and how confident are you guys that you can put him in better scenarios that he can have success?
Well, I think just the experience of doing it and making the adjustment. You think of the sacrifice that Georgie made, and Georgie's played the 4 most of his life, and then we played him at the 5, and now he becomes really a dominant low post scorer as a freshman. And he was all excited to get back and play the 4, but it was different at the collegiate level. And but with that has come some confidence because he's played it, he's experienced it. He had some struggles. He knows what those are. We identified those, and again, I think it was a matter of as things went along, he lost a little confidence, and then he's worked his way back to gaining that and understanding where his opportunities came. Georgie's one of the most unselfish people that we have on our team in terms of being able to share. He doesn't care if he scores or doesn't score. He just wants to win. And yet being efficient on the court, coming little things, in terms of how he had to guard, going to rebound from the perimeter when he was in the paint all the time. Those were all things that were very different for him and new. Now he's experienced and now he's got some confidence, and that's why we'll see a better Georgie when he's playing that spot.
Thanks, Brad. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's me. Hi, Brad. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks. I'm wondering, when you watch the NBA, obviously they're different in that bubble, but even maybe some missteps in college football too. Just, are there things you've learned, as far as how to do team meals, how guys live together, who they live with? Are there certain things you've picked up that you can implement on your own team or that you've brainstormed about that you can share?
Yeah, I think that, obviously we're not in our locker room here. If you walk out if you could get into our building, which you can't, we have tables out here that are their lockers around the court. They bring their laundry every day to be washed from the day before. We're now allowing groups of 3 and groups of 4 into the showers in our locker room. Everything's grab and go. We used to have breakfast and so on and meals in our locker room right after practice. That's not happening. We just talked today about pregame meals and how we would do those. Obviously, Notre Dame, I think football had a situation where they had a bunch of positive tests and they think they started from a pregame meal. We're looking to some different ideas where players sit one at a table at pregame meals, and some things that have to be different. We're still trying to structure what our locker room and video room where we meet in the State Farm Center, how we can do those things. There'll be a lot of different challenges. We've put everybody together with the exception of 2 players in housing this year, so that they're with a roommate who's a basketball player. And then we've got a little bit of control in terms of who's in and who's out, and trying to create as close to a bubble as we can. The bubble doesn't exist in college sports. It doesn't. The NBA bubble was great. So to use that term is probably very loose on my part, but there are things that we are doing, and those are just a few of them.
And I know with football, they released like a kind of a threshold number of with how many positives the game could still go on, right? With the Big Ten. Have you heard anything about that for basketball, or what could you envision? Obviously, it would be a lower number. I mean, what would you see as a threshold for that would make it impossible to play a game?
Yeah, and I don't know what that is. We obviously know the football number. I don't know. They've told us that every sport will be dealt with on its own merit. Obviously, having roughly 15 guys on scholarship, and what that looks like. The Big Ten's doing it, and we're doing it in tiers, in groups that are primarily around our student athletes every day, and limiting those. So that will vary. I don't know the exact number. I know it gets to be a challenge because it's not just your players and coaches, it's your trainers, your strength coaches, your managers, you could be team doctors, and all those people that are around them on a daily basis. So what that looks like, Shannon, I don't know. We'll soon find out. I think the medical subcommittees for the Big Ten have done an unbelievable job of working through some of that and trying to be very fair. So I really don't have an answer for you on what that looks like, or what I would even guess it is. I would think if we get more than 2 or 3 positives, you would make it very difficult to participate potentially.
Yeah. Just the last thing is, when you think about it in the big picture, you've mentioned some of these risk factors, kind of a foregone conclusion. There will be teams that have players who continue to contract this. There's been the back and forth of play, don't play. From your perspective, when you've looked at it or wrestled with these big picture societal ideas about this, what benefits outweigh the negatives to play this season?
Well, I'm a big proponent of playing, and I think we should play, and I think it's great for not just our athletes, for a university. I think it's great for all of us to play, knowing that it's not going to be perfect. I think we've seen the great model that's happened, baseball, NFL. Obviously, the bubble is an exception in the NBA because they came through it in a miraculous way. But I think it shows how big sports are in our society. I think we're doing it in a way that's extremely safe and well thought out, and yet it's not just it's great for the mental health of our young guys and our young people to be playing. That's what they do. So I'm excited that we're tackling it and we're getting after it and we're taking every step that there can be taken. We're taking, and in terms of preventing and or once they do have it, being able to help them in those circumstances. So I think we're in a good place, and I'm excited that we're moving forward and playing.
All right, thanks a lot for your time.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Great.
Good. Just one question for you. Obviously, there's a lot in time between now and March, but returning majority of your group, how excited is this group to work towards not just a run in March, but a deep run in March?
Yeah, I think that they felt so good about where they were at the end of last season that was realistic. And we've talked a lot about that throughout the course of the summer. I mean, man, we were playing really well. Kofi wasn't playing as a freshman. He had grown up, and we had guards that could make big plays. We were one of the best defensive teams in the country in the last month of the season. We were a top rebounding team. We had everything that you want going into a postseason run. And yet one of the great challenges now is getting back to that level. And that's what we're striving towards. But I think that you've got to have a little bit of luck. You've got to have a little bit of depth and experience, and we have that. So I think that it's not something that we're running away from. We're talking about, but we've got to be able to take it day by day. And again, it goes back to what so many of you talked about: not letting outside distractions, not letting the outside noise bother you. And then we've got to handle COVID, and we talk about COVID every single day, and that'll could determine how far you go and what you do.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Brad, thanks for talking to us for an hour plus here, and letting me get your question in after ducking out of Zoom University for a bit. What do you think is the biggest thing that's changed about this team since March, and how are you guys going to show us that when you take the court for the first time?
Yeah, I think a little of that will be new personnel. I think every team's got its own identity. I said, I'd like to pick up where we left off in March, but knowing that the pieces are different. I don't want to talk to these guys too much about, all the things that happened last year, but I want them to understand what we did and how we went about it and the process that got us there. Because I think the process is just as important as the pieces. And then this team will develop its own identity. Their characteristics will win out, and their personality will win out. But I think we'll we'll continue to figure out what that identity truly looks like once we get a little further in practice. You know, but I think that we've got great guards, and we've obviously got the freshman of the year in the Big Ten that's back, and he's a sophomore. Usually that means tremendous growth, and I'm excited about Kofi's sophomore year, and we need him to be more consistent. We're going to get a better Georgie, we'll get a better Trent. So I think all those things lead to a lot of positives.
Thanks.
All right, that was everything in the chat queue, so I think we're wrapped up. Coach, thanks for spending time with us today, and thanks everybody for being on.
Thank you. Hope everybody's well.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks for your time. Thanks, Derek.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, DB.
Thanks, Brad.
See you guys.